Well, our guest today, I don't know that I can even pronounce his name, right? Etienne de la, what is it? Covey2 squared? It's
Etienne de la Buissy.
Oh, Buissy.
Buissy
All right.
squared.
All right. I was thinking it was like the country singer, what's that, Bo Diddley? It's not Bo Diddley squared?
It's not Bo Diddley squared.
All right, Boissy squared. Basically, that's a name. Give kind of people a little understanding of the reason that you're using that pseudonym for your writings and for all that you do, sir.
So the original Etienne de la Buissy was a French political philosopher. He wrote in the 16th century, and he was really one of the first that exposed the little tricks and the techniques that rulers used to get not just obedience, but to get fealty and adoration and God save the Queen and all hail the chief, and to get people to go along with something that is not in their interest, which is having a ruling class that has rights that everybody else doesn't have and claims a monopoly on violence over a given geographic territory and the ability to make up rules for everyone and steal the wealth of others.
The idea is they make it emotional rather than logical, right?
Well, they use a variety of what I would call behavioral psychology and tricks and techniques. And he was a little bit like Machiavelli. Machiavelli did kind of the same thing, but Machiavelli, you know, was when he wrote The Prince, was really making an appeal for the powers that shouldn't be to hire him so that he could help them refine those techniques. Where Etienne de la Buissy was in his masterwork, The Discourse of Voluntary Servitude, was exposing them and saying, hey, these guys are running game on you.
The fraudsters have been exposed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is an anarchist. And I learned over the last 25 years plus in radio that an anarchist is not what you think it is. You might think that it's somebody who just wants violence and crazy, no government, just the whole world's melting down and falling apart. That's what the mainstream press liars want you to believe an anarchist is. That's not what it is at all. An anarchist really is someone who just simply believes this. In order to be completely free, you cannot have government. Government is an absolute criminal violation of your freedom. You say, well, Sam, how do things run then? The answer, easily. You can use the private sector. You can use private contracts. You can negotiate with those around you. You can do it yourself. But no matter what, it needs to be voluntary. It can't be a forced government cabal, and that's the problem. And so anarchists don't want anarchy, as the dishonest manipulation definition is. What they really want is self-rule, individual autonomy to make decisions on their own and to contract with whomever, whenever they please. They believe that is the answer. It's beyond libertarianism, if you will, and it's a legitimate viewpoint for people to have. Now, you might think it's not, but listen to our guest, and you know what? I'll make my arguments against his view. He'll make arguments against my view. And our goal is not to destroy each other's arguments. Our goal is to help you think and contemplate reality and make up your own mind. Have I started the discussion fairly, sir?
Absolutely. That was a beautiful overview.
And have I articulated your stance right? I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to articulate it as I understand it, right?
So I would say, the one thing that I would add is
Sure.
that the word anarchy doesn't mean no rules. It means no rulers. And you can have governance without having government. And everything that people want the government to do, if you really think about it, the government is besides the redistribution, the overwhelming majority of what the government does is a provider of services.
By force.
By force. It's a monopoly provider that claims the right to provide these services to you, whether or not you want them or not. And so whether it's, the monopoly government school, the mandatory government school, whether it is the armed protective services that they call the police, whether it's dispute resolution that they call the courts, whether it's air traffic control, whether it's running the worst passenger train service on the planet, there's all of these things could be done better, faster, and cheaper by the free market, by co-ops, by mutual aid societies, by homeowners associations, insurance companies, nonprofits, and genuine charities. And when people are spending their own money, they tend to spend it 2 to 3 times more efficiently than the government in a more targeted, effective way. And so you could have everything that you want without the theft and extortion of government.
and most importantly, conscience, self-determination, free association would not be violated is the point, right?
Right, there'd be more harmony. So you wouldn't have to go and bicker at the school board to not teach LBGQT or critical race theory or anything that you didn't want. You would just take your child and put them in the kind of school that you want. You want Montessori, you want self-directed learning. You get to choose, and everybody would be dramatically wealthier because you wouldn't have a crooked monetary system stealing the value out of everybody's money. You wouldn't be taxed 50% of your income in overt taxes, covert taxes, and inflation. And when I say covert taxes, I'm talking about, everybody knows the 1040, but most people never really think about every time you get a gallon of gas, every time you get a beer, every time you pay your cable TV bill, every time you pay your cell phone bill, every time you get an airline ticket, every time, it just goes on and on and on where they've got their hand into your pocket. And then, so if everybody was dramatically wealthier, they could afford the schools that they wanted. They could afford the kind of an armed protective services company that is not a monopoly, that was, maybe, they could choose between, who provides the best restitution, who keeps neighborhoods the safest. And if the officers are rude, they could take their money and go to a different company. You don't have that.
And there's no doubt we agree that competition is the key. That's the genius of liberty, right?
It really is. It is people choosing. They're free to choose. They're free to make their own decisions. They're able to, invest their money in the retirement program that they feel will give them the best returns at the with the most safety, versus being forced into a system that is actuarially impossible and destined for failure. These things are really, really important decisions, and they shouldn't be forced on people.
Roger that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're thinking, what do you mean hard-hitting talk radio? All you've done is agreed with your guest. Come on now. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be fair. I'm one of the most fair journalist/talk show hosts on the planet. You want to know why? Because I fundamentally believe in the right to free speech. And I fundamentally believe in the right for people to articulate what they believe. It's not for me to bring on a guest and try to prove that I'm smarter, better, faster, that I can cut him off because a break's coming because I'm in charge, by heavens. Okay, that isn't real radio. That's just propaganda, theater type radio. It's bogus, and it should be ignored by all honest, wise thinking Americans, because it's not real. It's game playing, it's theater, it's entertainment, it's whatever. I want to have real discussions in America, real debates in America. I want to articulate the arguments on both sides of this discussion. And I want you to think about where you stand on your own. Is that a fair assertion?
Absolutely.
All right. Has there been a more fair talk show host that you've ever had an interview with?
No, this is an excellent interview, and I congratulate you for having it on your program.
That's what we do right here at Liberty Roundtable Live, the one and only. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a completely different view than he does. What's fascinating is our views are almost 100% aligned. And as we have this discussion, you'll find out they are so close it's shocking. But there is a fundamental difference. And he thinks I'm almost there, and I think he's almost there. But here's the best part. Neither of us are going to throw our sucker in the dirt. Neither of us are going to melt down. We're going to make our pros. We're going to have our discussion. And it's going to be hard hitting. All right? The debate starts now. The gloves are off. So you've heard his view. No government. Government's evil. It's a criminal cabal. I have a view that's completely different that says this. I agree 90% of government is evil. When government crosses the line from defensive to offensive, it no doubt goes rogue. It is also true that governments, by very nature, over time, go rogue and fail. That is a fact beyond debate. You can't show me an example where that's not true. And that is a little bit to our guest's point. However, I maintain to you this fundamental reality. There is a quest for liberty and a quest for tyranny. And those two opposites are at war. And the reality is that you must give up a little bit of your, quote, sovereignty and autonomy for society to work. And you must give up a little bit of your liberty and your autonomy for liberty to truly be maximized. We have to cooperate with one another. We have to have some degree of compromise, Or what we do is we stand on our own. And when we stand on our own and we don't have that compromise, we don't have that working together mentality, we don't have that give up a little bit of liberty to gain more liberty idea, what we end up doing is losing the whole farm. And I say that because that's what history proves. Okay? We have got to work together in some way to have civilized society. Now, Bastier's The Law is the book that I would point to that highlights this point probably better than any other source that I can find. Which basically says, look, you've got to give up some of your sovereignty. You've got to work together. And if you don't have some force, listen carefully, if you don't have some force strong enough to prevent a greater force, then you will lose your liberty because the greater force will fill that vacuum. So how do we create a strong enough force that can repel any more evil force, but a strong enough force to keep us safe? A force that can't be toppled and replaced by evil. That's why you got to give enough force to maximize liberty. But if you're not careful, you give away too much and it topples the other way. But make no mistake, evil people live in the world. In a godly society, no government would work. Would all be self-governed. Would all obey the Ten Commandments. The world would be great. But it isn't that way, and evil people do want to lord over others, do want to become master and slave over others, and the masters will absolutely, at every opportunity, fill that vacuum with greater force, denying us liberty. So the quest the Founding Fathers had was, how do we create a balance between liberty and tyranny? They came up with the Declaration of Independence to say God gave us our rights, not government. They came up with a Constitution that said, hey, here's the best way we think we can balance this. We'll use checks and balances. We'll use different responsibilities. We'll use dual sovereignties between the general governments and the states. And through all that, we will chain down any small faction so that they don't gain too much power. Now, remember the statement the founders came out of the convention by saying. When asked what government we had, they said, a republic if you can keep it. What that meant is the people have a role. The reason that it's failing is the people don't obey their role. People don't demand the checks and balances. In fact, they don't even know the checks and balances or the proper role of limited government. If you're ignorant and free, that is what never was and never will be. So the important thing to understand is, you know, it's like if I start a diet and the diet says don't eat sweets, don't eat sugar. And if I don't eat sugar, the diet works. But if the second I say I'm going to go on this don't eat sugar diet, I start eating sugar, and then I get sick, and I get diabetes, and then I say, oh man, that diet's bogus. Wait a minute, the problem is I didn't obey the diet. The problem isn't the diet. The problem is I violated the terms of the diet at every turn, and therefore I'm in a fix. That's where I see we are in America today. So I submit to you that we have to have some government, or else a greater force will fill that vacuum and steal our liberties. And I say the Founding Fathers put together their best attempt to create that balance. Yes, is it failing? Absolutely. I could point to the reasons why, but that's a topic for another day. The bottom line is, do we need no government because it's evil and a cabal and criminal, or do we need a little bit of government as Bastier taught? That is the ultimate debate. So we've each had our opening statements, sir. Let's let you kick it off. How's that?
All right, that sounds good. And so the first thing I want to point out is that whether it's that everything you said is an opinion. Bastiat's is an opinion, and I've often heard that.
But let's be clear, what you were saying is an opinion as well,
enforced
right?
by a gun. Well, I'm going to make three different kinds of arguments. I'm going to make a moral argument, I'm going to make a logical argument, and I'm going to make a utilitarian argument.
Yes, but all three are your opinion as well.
Yes, but there is, but there is something metaphysically true about the logic that I'm about to lay down on you.
All right,
and that is there is no way.
Hold on, before you get to your logic, and there is truth about the logic that I'm laying down, which they will see as the discussion unfolds.
Excellent. All right. So what I would like to say is that in the case of having a government, there is no way to have a legitimate moral government. If you're on an island with 9 other people, there is no logical moral way for 6 people to vote to give themselves rights that the other 4 don't have, where they're able to make the other 4 pick the coconuts, do all the work, tax them, take their money. And so you can't be bound by a social contract that you didn't sign. If my girlfriend and myself can't vote to rob you because there's 2 of us and 1 of you, there's no magical additional person that makes something that is immoral and illogical now moral and logical. And so now I'm going to put it to you on this, on the example that I give on the island of 10 people. Sam, how do you get a moral, legitimate government?
So if you go back to Bastier's The Law, morally we have the right to life.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start there. All right. So let's say we're on this island. Let's take there's 3 of us now, not 10.
Sure.
And the only reason I changed the number is because I want an odd number on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that somebody can be shut down entirely.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can have 5 and 5, and it's a throw down. Okay.
Yep.
3 is the reason I'm using it, because it's not an even number, and somebody
okay
can
with
win
that.
and lose, right? All right. Now, there's bears on the island.
Mm-hmm.
There's cougars and there's wolves on the island,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the elements.
Yep.
And at some point, I'm saying I don't have the skills to stay alive by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and the one other person says I don't either, and you say, but I do. And I say, okay, but listen. We need a compact here. We need an agreement to try to help keep each other alive. And the other guy says, yeah, that's great. And you say, I ain't doing it. Forget you guys. I hope you die off. Actually, I don't hope you die off. I'm not willing to agree to that. The 2 of us can say, we'll make our pact and either leave you out,
Mm-hmm.
or we can say, look, we all 3 need to have this pact. Now, the best way is for us to make a pact of 2 people and leave you out, and then as you get a few threatening events happening your way, trees fall on you, maybe a bear comes after you, and you go, you know what, guys, I need your help. I cannot sit there and guard myself against the bears and catch fish at the same time. I just can't. I need your help. Then we say we'll help you. That's the best way, not by coercion, but by cooperation. You and I agree on that 100%.
100%.
However, at some point, let's say one of us is a male and a female, so we create children because we get along great, and you're left out. So now we have children, and there's more people on the island. At some point, we can say, listen, we are going to say the person that keeps the bears away from us, we're going to call that the sheriff now, that person we're going to hire. And you know what? We expect you to help us cover the sheriff's cost. You benefit from the sheriff, too. At some point, when we provide this protective benefit that preserves life, at some point, you have an obligation to pull your weight, to refuse your pulling your weight, to stand on your own against the rest of us, if you will, to take advantage of, hey, this guy keeping the bears away, for instance, is a violation of moral ethics at the highest level. Because you must be willing to say life matters the most, whether it be my life or somebody else's. My desire to preserve life trumps my, hey, I'm not going to cooperate or not participate. At some point, you have a moral obligation to support us and our lives as well, not by force, but by joining. But if you don't, we have no choice but to say you will pull your weight. To gain the benefit without participating in pulling your weight is a moral hazard, is a moral misstep on your part.
Not as moral as forcing somebody to do something that they don't want to do or
Hold
don't
on.
want to agree
Hold on.
with the
We're
threat
debating
of
the
force.
morality of it now. It is immoral, though, for you not to pull your weight and to get something for nothing.
No, wait.
The protection of life.
If the third person wants to go his own way for whatever reason, he doesn't trust you guys, he doesn't believe in your judgment, you're both alcoholics, you're drug
whatever,
users,
sure.
whatever reason he doesn't want to participate with you and he decides to go his own way, you can't follow him around and go, no, we're gonna get some of those coconuts that you pick.
No, you can't.
And like,
Hold on.
hey buddy, like I don't want to.
You can't. And if you want to go to the other side of the island and have your little thing, and we draw a line between the 2 of us and say, hey, here's our side where we're going to protect each other. Here's your side where you're not. Then your point's well taken. We could just leave you to your side,
That's my
and we're
point.
good.
That's my point.
And it's a good
Everybody
point.
has the right not to participate, and you're saying no. People
hold
have
on.
the right to participate, and
Hold
we
on.
have to force them to participate in the scheme that you came up with to provide protection for everybody. It's no different than the mafia coming by and saying, "Hey, you don't understand. You need protection, buddy." it's a rough place on this island. You've got to give us these coconuts, whether you want to or not, because we're providing you protection.
So if you have your own area that we're not protecting, then I agree with you. You can go off on your own and do that all day long.
Right.
Have a good time. However, if you were in our quote protection zone, let's now call it our country, or whatever you want to say, then if you're receiving that,
no, we don't have a country. No. So we're all free human beings on the planet.
Yep.
And so before you can get into a country, you have to have a government. And so some people come up and they say, hey, we've got this great idea. We're going to give some people rights that other people don't.
Nope.
And they're going to get the ability to tax and take your money. No, I'm not, because you can't start a country without a government. And so the first thing is, how do you have a moral, legitimate government? And you have not answered the question.
Yes, I have.
No, you.
So hold on. So let's talk about life. We're saying to you that we have an obligation morally to preserve life for all three of us.
No, you don't. The person doesn't have any kind of. Nobody
Are you
has
saying
any
that there's no
obligation
moral
to any
obligation
group.
to protect life and for life around you?
I'm saying that nobody has a. So you're talking about collectivism. You're making the same argument that
we all
communists
three have
makes.
individual.
No, you're making a collectivist argument.
Stick with me.
It is literally the logic of communists.
Stick with me. We all three have a life.
Yes.
Do you have a moral code to preserve all three of our lives to the best of your ability? Yes or no?
I do have a moral code, but I don't have an obligation.
Okay, so
I
you
do
don't
have
have
a
an
moral
obligation
code.
to
I
be
would do
moral?
it voluntarily. So everything everything you're discussing could be done voluntarily
Do you
and
have
should
an
be done
obligation
voluntarily.
to be moral?
Yes, everybody should be moral.
Okay, so you have an obligation to be moral.
Yes.
How far does that obligation go?
It ends. So my rights end at the tip of your nose. Okay, and you can't threaten people with violence and force them into a scheme you think is a good idea, Sam.
Hold on. The bear is violent, and the bear is about to kill me.
Yeah, I'm willing to help and lay down my life to protect you.
Hold on, you might be, or you might not be.
You can't force me to do it.
Hold on,
you
may
can't
not
force
be.
somebody to do it.
Hold on, you may not be though.
I may not be.
You know what? You may not be willing to protect me. You might say, you know what? Sam is an idiot. He should die. Right?
Sam,
do you have?
Hold on. You're drifting away from the point.
No, we're not. We're sticking with the fundamental issue. So, do you have a right, if you think Sam's an idiot, to let the bear kill Sam, or do you have an obligation by moral code to save Sam's life? Answer my question.
I believe that you have an obligation to save another person's life if you can. Yes. But you can't be forced into doing it. And that's my opinion, and I'm not willing to enforce that with a gun, but you are.
This is a hard break. When we come back, we'll talk about it more. My guest, say your name for me.
Etienne de la Boissy, squared, government-scam.com.
Sam Bushman, Bo Diddley on your radio. Live and on your radio, ladies and gentlemen, a true anarchist and Sam Bushman, a true constitutionalist, having a throwdown debate. We're on an island. There's three of us. And you know what? Mr. Anarchist doesn't want to agree to anything. He just simply says, I'm on my own.
No, that's not true. Wait. No, I'm willing to cooperate. I'm willing to help volunteer. No, you're
no, listen.
No, you're trying to set the stage.
No, I'm not setting the
stage.
Listen to me.
You, and I'm
Anarchist is not you as a person. Anarchist is anybody. You can't decide for anybody whether they're willing to help or not.
Right. You can't force anybody. You can't force your will
on
anybody else.
You say you're willing to help, right?
Yeah.
But that's 100%. You as an individual.
Right.
But the other anarchist, if it was a different person that was in the place of you, so you, me, and the third person are three people. They're not us specifically.
Yeah.
All right? That anarchist, that person who believes in zero force of any kind anywhere, supposedly, there's a flaw in the argument, which we'll get to in a second.
So he wants to do it his own way.
No, listen. He wants to do it his own way. He wants to go his own way.
And you're following him around going, no, you've got to give us those coconuts.
Hold on. And this person may not be willing to help preserve life.
He just wants to go he wants to be left alone.
He may not be willing to help preserve life. He doesn't want to associate
with you, and he wants to go his own way.
That's
for
fine.
Whatever reason.
So I'm sitting there, and the bear's about to kill me.
Yeah.
And he just smiles and drinks his beer.
So, let's say that you're a disreputable person, and you're a coconut thief, and you're trying to steal his coconuts, and you keep saying, no, we have to have this government, and you just got to give us these coconuts.
The bear
and he's
kills
like, hey,
me.
Dude, I don't like.
The bear kills me. He's satisfied that I'm gone because I'm a coconut stealer. And he finishes his beer, and I'm dead. Now, what's more important? The coconuts that we should be sharing, but he refuses, or my life? What in a moral discussion is more important, sir? At some point, there's a hierarchy of morals we must discuss, right?
That's right. And number one is you can't steal.
No, number one is
so
life.
If your plan on
number one is
plan,
life.
Just wait. Hold on a second. I want to make this important point. If your plan requires you to steal from other people, it's a bad plan. It's not a good plan. Good plans don't require stealing from other people. And so most anarchists are not atomistic. They're not going to go their own way. They're more than willing to organize, self-organize, voluntarily. I'm very happy to help pick coconuts for everybody. I'm very happy to help build shelter for everybody. But I don't think that we should have a government and that the two of you guys get to make all of the decisions and it has to be forced on me. I'm willing to cooperate willingly, and that's a good idea. That's moral. That's logical. That's willing to help. What you're saying is that there's certain ideas that are just such, you've got these ideas, and they're so good, and you understand the way that the world has to be organized, so we're just going to have to steal from the people that disagree, and we're going to have to do it my way. And I'm saying, number one, that's immoral. Number two, it's illogical. And number three, it doesn't really work, because what ends up happening is once a government gets in place, it never is chained down by the Constitution. It once you give people, human beings, unlimited power, they're going, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You're now down the slippery slope where the government isn't just taking 1% or 2%. Now it's taking 50%. Now it's forcing lockdowns. Now it's doing whatever. So there's a utilitarian argument that it doesn't work. The Constitution looks good on paper, but it didn't work at all. It did not protect even the basic natural law rights outlined in the Bill of Rights. It wasn't able to reduce, government at all. It wasn't able to restrict government at all. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work on the island. And then there's the karma of stealing somebody's coconuts. And I'm trying to say, Sam, you don't want the bad karma of stealing people's coconuts. You're not going to get what you want in that scenario.
Now, we're still on the island. There's three of us. If you freely cooperate and help save our lives, and we have this mutual agreement that I'm going to save life, the third person is going to save
government.
Life, and so are you. So we
that's
mutually
not
agree. No, I know.
That's
Listen,
an agreement.
I agree. That's an agreement, and that works great.
Yes.
Now we all have children somehow. I say somehow because Adam and Eve did it, and it gets all weird, right?
Yeah.
All right, but I'm just telling you. Okay, so we have children, and now our children are the same as us, and now we got some guys that aren't willing to even help. If you get a bear that attacks you, I don't give a rip. I hope you die, because there's more for me if you do.
Okay.
Now, in our society, there are those people. Do you agree?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. And because those people have that attitude, we now have 10 people on the island.
Okay.
And you know what? 6 of them say, the heck with you. I don't want your plans. I don't care about your life. The sooner you die, the better.
Okay.
Now, we either have a choice. We can either let the good guys die off. The bad guys don't care. Or maybe bad guys die too. In other words, the loss of life becomes king by force, because that bear ain't going to follow the rules. That cougar, that wolf ain't going to follow the rules. They're just flat out going to kill me. Right now, because we've lost our moral preservation of life, and because we won't steal coconuts, we now have neither.
Why don't you have any coconuts? Why can't you just go on?
I can get my own coconuts.
We're all doing fine.
I know, but when the bear killed me, now I don't have coconuts.
Now there's 4 people.
When the bear killed me and I don't have coconuts, I'm dead with no coconuts.
Why are you? There's 3 people on the island. We're doing fine. Now there's
because
you got 4 on your team.
Hold on.
And
hold on.
Why are you now?
We're doing fine because everybody was moral.
Okay.
Okay. But as soon as we got to 10 people, a bunch of immoral people got in the mix, as you've agreed, and because they don't have a moral hierarchy, they don't have a moral governing values, now people are dying. So now we either can work together, and maybe we have to force someone who won't go along to go along.
So you're gonna stick your hand in their pocket and steal their money, whether or not their coconuts, whether or not you want them to or not. You are. That's what you're advocating.
No, you're using the wrong words. So I am going to compel them. Listen carefully.
Compel using force, extortion.
Right. But extortion. I get forced by the bear for death otherwise. So force is not the discussion. The discussion is how can I use the minimal amount of force to create the most amount of liberty? That's the discussion. There's force in the world, and whether I use force or not, force will be used against me. The bear will kill me. In fact, one of those immoral people might kill me because they might want my coconuts too. And by force, they're going to kill me and steal my coconuts.
Sam, you're the immoral person for wanting to steal this guy's coconuts.
I know, but listen, I think that we the people have the right to compel someone who will not preserve life to support the preservation of life, the most important moral in the hierarchy of morals.
You're literally talking about communism. You're literally making the case
No.
the moral. You are. That's collectivism,
listen,
and that you're saying that you're making the case.
That's the point where you have to give up some liberty. You have to cooperate.
It's the argument of communists, Sam.
No, it's not.
It is the argument. That is
No,
the argument.
the-
that is the argument
there
of
is a
communists, Sam.
No, here's what you're not
That is
understanding.
the argument of communists.
I'll let you go, and then I'll explain. Because you're not willing to listen, but go ahead.
No, so
Make your point, and then I'll make mine.
So the communist argument is that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and that's why we get to steal, and it always ends up in death and destruction, and because it begins with immorality. What I'm saying is that I'm happy to work with you voluntarily. I'm happy to organize with you voluntarily. But the second that you say that this idea is so important that we're going to have to rob this guy over here to put the idea into perspective, that we have to have a government on the island, and that the two of us know what's best, and we're gonna make this person the sheriff, but you're gonna have to give up your coconuts whether you want to or not. So the second that you say I'm willing to steal, then I'm like, that person's immoral. That idea is a dumb idea, because if the idea involves stealing from somebody else, that's how you know it's a dumb idea. That's how you know it's a bad idea.
All right, so let's highlight the truth now. And the truth is this. Communism is a godless force system. And the force is so that one can lord over another.
Which is what you're advocating. You're saying that my ideas of how to organize on this island are so good and so important that I must steal the coconuts.
Nope. The force is a moral crisis because it is for the purpose of financial gain, the purpose of lording over one another, the purpose of control. It's a offensive violation of rights. If you have a godly view, then God gave life. God is the author of our very lives and existence. And as God gave us life, the highest moral in the hierarchy of morals is to preserve life, to protect life, and for moral people to cooperate in doing so. And as long as they cooperate in doing so, we don't need government. You're right. The problem is there's evil, bad actors out there who will
steal coconuts.
Hold on. Who will take life or will let life be taken on their watch for their own, not godly, but godless agenda. And as a result, then, if we're on the island with people who will take life and or not preserve life, they have violated the highest moral code. And if they are immoral to the point of violating the highest moral provision, which is to preserve life, because without life, we have no discussion. Okay? If there's no life, we have nothing to discuss anymore, because you don't have liberty if you don't have life. So life is the highest moral in the hierarchy of morals, and if somebody is not willing to violate or to protect that and or sustain that, if they're especially willing to actively violate that, then we must compel them to stop that behavior. We have no choice, or else we will all be dead.
Stop what behavior? They're not doing anything.
Either the action to take life, which many do.
Right. So you have to protect life. If somebody's trying to hurt you, you have the ability to defend yourself.
That's right.
But you're talking about taking their coconuts.
But I'm also talking about if life is going to be taken from another source, like a bear, a wolf, a cougar. If that person doesn't actively help protect life, then they, by their silence, they, by their unwillingness to morally help, they have stolen something from me.
No, they haven't.
Yes, they have.
No, they have not.
They have, by silence, by their lack of action.
Nobody has stolen. The only person doing any stealing is you with these coconuts.
Hold on. By their lack of action, they let the bear steal my life. And they participated by their unwillingness to take the moral stand required to preserve life.
Wait. Wait.
Yes.
You're saying that we've got to have
that
a government.
Inaction is an action.
No, but you're saying that
Hold on.
we have to have a
Inaction is
government
an
to
action.
protect us from the bears. And
Hold on.
I'm
I didn't say
saying
we had to have a government.
No. You're dodging the entire question. The question is, how do you get a moral, legitimate government with 3 people on the island?
Hold on.
And so like can you vote on it? So
No.
if 2 people vote to take the third person's coconuts, is that legitimate?
Yes.
Okay. Then my girlfriend and myself, she's going to come over here. There's going to be 2 of us.
Hold on, let me explain.
And we're going to vote that because we've got this idea that I've got to go hire a sheriff. And so is it moral? Do you have to give us your money? And if the 2 of us hold you down and take it, you're saying that it's okay because we voted.
Nope.
All right, so you can't vote.
No, hold on.
Now, what if we
hold on.
What if we write down on a piece of paper?
You played games with words.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're unseating the argument. Let's get back to the life discussion. So I said in a defensive mode, there is a preservation of life, the highest moral, that we must agree to cooperate to preserve. And if we don't, we're immoral.
What I'm saying...
Hold on. If we don't, we're immoral.
What I'm saying to you is, how do you establish
Hold
this
on, do you agree with
government
that?
morally?
Do you agree with that? Sitting by while I get cured by a bear is immoral.
These are situational ethics questions. What I'm saying to you is,
no.
How
Stick
do
with
you
the reality. We're on the island.
Government?
We're on the island.
Right.
Forget a government. We're on the island, and if you let a bear kill me while you watch or while you ignorantly turn your back or not agree to cooperate, is that an immoral act on your part?
Yeah, that's a bad act.
Is it an immoral act?
If you can save life and you do not do it, then you're a bad person.
It is an immoral act. Agreed?
Agree.
Okay. So, if you're willing to cooperate, I've already told you, we don't need government. We have, in a sense, a government. It's a contract. It's an agreement that we all agree to help each other.
Yes.
You can debate if that's government
and
or
I'm
not.
happy to do that.
And it's a free association, which I prefer.
Yeah.
And I would love that.
Yes.
And in fact, in God's kingdom, that's how it will be.
Right.
Because everybody will be moral and good and right, and we don't need to compel people to do anything.
Yeah.
But in a wicked world where people are evil, one of those 3 people might be willing to steal my stuff and hurt me. And or sit idly.
You're the person that's advocating the stealing.
Now listen, or sit idly by while that happens to me. And if they do that, it's a moral breach. And at some point, if I know that there's moral breachers amongst us, then it is less of a moral crime for me to compel them than it is for my life to be lost or your life to be lost. There's a hierarchy of morals that you're overlooking.
No, it's all poison. So
No,
if you're
there's a hierarchy of morals you're overlooking,
No,
and you just
no,
agreed to that by saying sitting idly by. You've committed a moral crime by ignoring my life.
You continue to dodge the question. Okay, I'm talking about how does one get the moral, legitimate right?
I just explained to you. Let me explain it again because you're not getting it. There's a hierarchy of morals, and life is at the top of that list. And if somebody will not protect life as they are morally required, it is less of a moral crime to compel them to do so than it is to allow them to violate life. That is the answer to your question. It is not dodging it one bit. It is putting it directly down your throat. There is a moral hierarchy. And if you violate the life principle, because without life there's nothing. There's no coconuts. There's no freedom. There's nothing. And so life is at the top of that moral code. If you are not willing to be moral enough to cooperate, to preserve that, then I do have the right to compel you. I have no choice, because otherwise I'm dead.
So, Sam...
Because otherwise I'm dead.
So, Sam...
Hold on, do you understand that? Otherwise I am dead.
Right. I hear you.
Okay? And so there's no discussion of liberty if I'm dead, is there?
Sam, you're
Hold
saying
on.
that...
Is there a discussion of liberty if I'm dead?
Sam...
Hold on, answer my question.
These are situational ethical questions.
Answer my question. No, they're reality.
No, you're obfuscating the basics. You're saying that your idea is so good and so valid.
Nope,
that
I'm saying
you
God's
have
idea
the
is
right.
so. Hold on, I'm saying God's idea
it's
is
not-
so good. God puts life at the top of the moral code.
God does not want you to steal these coconuts, Sam. I'm just telling you, God does
wants me
not
to
want
preserve
you
life.
to steal the coconuts.
Let me ask you, does God want me to preserve life?
He does not want you to steal any
No,
coconuts.
you're not
In fact,
answering me.
he laid down some commandments that
You're
said
not
that you
answering
shall
me.
not steal, and you're saying, well,
And he also
I
says
can
thou shalt
violate
not kill.
Right, and you're not. So if a bear comes and kills you, that's not me killing you, Sam.
Yeah, but if you
That's
sit
not
idly
another
by
person,
and you
right.
could have
No,
stopped
it's
it,
not.
it
No.
is you participating in the killing.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Yes,
we're
it is.
talking about the idea of how do you socio-politically organize society. You're
No.
saying it's
No,
okay
no.
to do it by compulsion. I'm saying it needs
I'm
to be
saying-
voluntary.
I'm saying
one
it's
of
okay
which
to
is
do-
moral and one of which is not. And that's the reality of it is.
No,
There's
you're-
two ways to organize society, by compulsion or voluntarily.
Yes,
and
and
your way
voluntarily is
is
the best.
immoral.
Hold
No,
on.
your way
Hold
is
on.
immoral. No, it's the only way.
Voluntary
Is
the
the
best.
only way. No, it's the only way.
Okay, so let me ask you the question then. So we can't agree.
We can't agree
Hold on.
because you're
Sit
willing
with
to
me.
use violence,
That's
and
right.
so I disagree
So
with
I'm
you.
the evil guy,
You are in a way,
and we
yeah.
can't agree.
Yeah, you're
Now,
willing to. You're the
hold
guy
on.
that's willing to use violence
Hold
on others, and you're willing to use
know.
violence to impose your will on others.
I've already agreed with
yeah,
you.
Yeah,
We've established that.
You're
you
the
don't need
bad
to keep
man.
going on. I'm the bad guy.
You're the bad man.
You're the good moral guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And your buddies just allowed me to get killed because they didn't want to help because Sam's the evil guy. So I got killed by a bear on the island.
Yeah.
Now, you're suggesting that that's the moral way to go.
Yes, I think
And it's a lie
Yes.
because life is at the top of the moral hierarchy. And you violated the greatest moral code we have as a society.
We
You
tried
let
to
me
reason
die.
with you. You just kept trying to steal the coconuts, Sam, and so eventually we just said, "Hey, we're I'm sorry, but you keep
So
trying
thou
to steal
shalt
our
not
coconuts."
steal in your moral code is above thou shalt not kill.
In a way, you can't.
Hold on.
You can't deal if you
Let me
can't
ask the
deal.
question
If
again.
people are going to be immoral, then you have the right to say, "Hey, you're out of the group, Sam."
Let me ask the
because
question
you keep
again.
being immoral, and we don't. You keep trying to steal these coconuts.
Let me ask the question again. You're saying to me that thou shalt not steal is a higher moral code, a higher moral imperative, is the word I will use, than life itself. Is that what you're saying to me?
I'm saying that unfortunately there are crazy people in the world that want to steal and
Yes.
for whatever reason it is, and you
kill.
have and the other two people have the right to segment themselves away and say, "Look, Sam, you keep trying to steal these coconuts. We want to work with you voluntarily, but you just keep going on and on about how it's so important that we do it my way and everything like that. That
you
we're
made
like
an
we're like,
assumption that's wrong.
what's the assumption?
You're saying that you want to help me.
Yeah,
We've
we're willing to work
no,
with you,
no,
but
no,
you
no.
keep trying to
No,
steal
no,
these coconuts.
No.
Sam.
One of the guys on the island wants to kill me and you too, because then there's more coconuts for him.
Mm-hmm.
See, you're assuming that everybody's good, that everybody wants to help, that everybody will do the right thing.
No, you're the
And
guy
in
that's trying to steal the
no,
coconuts.
no.
You're the guy that wants
Let's
to
say
steal
that
the
I
coconuts.
don't. Let's say
Sam.
that I agree with you for a second.
Okay.
Now there's somebody else that wants to kill us and steal the coconuts.
Right, so you and I work together, and we don't want anything to do with the guy that wants to steal.
That's right.
That's
But now
right.
it
Yeah,
bears
so you and I will work together. I'm
now,
willing to work with you
now it bears about to
voluntarily.
kill that guy.
Okay.
Do we let it happen?
It depends on how vicious and nasty and what the guy's doing and everything, but we may have to walk away from that guy because he can't be reasoned with because he's immoral and
Yes.
he thinks
But
that
is it
his
an
way
immoral-
is the
hold
right
on.
way and he
I
has
agree.
to steal.
I agree.
And we may have to shun him and exclude him completely from our society because he's an immoral person that believes that stealing is okay.
Yes.
And we don't want anything to
Understood.
do with that.
And agreed. However, at what point and what moral hierarchy do we use to determine when we let that happen versus when we preserve life? And we will be required to answer to God Almighty for that moral decision.
Agree.
Agreed?
Yeah.
All right. So at what point then do we ever compel him?
No.
Do
you
we?
don't-
No, hold on.
don't
Do we
use-
save his life?
It depends on if he keeps trying to steal coconuts.
He's trying to
and
steal
what-
coconuts. That's
yeah,
all.
Yeah.
He's,
Is he willing to
he's-
use violence?
He just
to
doesn't
steal
want to work,
coconuts? Yeah.
and he wants to steal coconuts, and he might get abusive. He might punch you and take a coconut. Yes.
I want to get back to the core issue.
Hold
of
on.
how do you establish
Answer
this
my
government?
question.
No, Sam, I want to. The issue is, I'm saying that there's
The
no
issue is there is a
legitimate
hierarchy-
way
hold on.
to establish a government, and I'm saying if it is, what's the logical, moral way that the two people on the island, okay, logically and morally, acquire rights that the other guy doesn't have? To be able to force him
No,
to do
he has,
things
but he
that
doesn't give up.
do. No. what I'm saying is, so is there a magical? Can you write down on a piece of paper the magical Constitution and say you and the other person can sign a document that says we have the ability to force you to do things you want and we get to steal your stuff? You're saying that that's the way. Two people.
You manipulated the phrasing.
No, I'm not.
To your advantage. Yes.
No.
I am saying to you that we have the right, if you will not preserve life, to compel you to do so.
Okay. So you're saying
yes,
you can establish a government over another person, okay, immediately, okay? Because
no, if you're willing to cooperate, we don't need to do that.
No. So like, how do you have a legitimate moral government? So do you write it down on a piece of paper? Do you vote? Can two people vote to steal the money of others? Yes or no?
It depends on the purpose. Yes, it does.
No, it's the argument of communists.
No, it is not the argument of communists. For example, life is property. Do you agree?
Yes.
And in order for me to keep my life and my limb and my conscience and my property together, I have to have enough protection to make sure that I don't lose it. And under your plan, I have zero protection except for the kindness of your heart.
No. In your belief, my plan is
unworkable,
inferior to yours.
No,
in my view,
hold on.
In my view,
your
plan is completely flawed morally, logically, and karmically.
I'm not saying
and
that
I'm
your
not
plan
willing
is
to go
inferior.
along with your plan, and you're saying, well, I get to force you because my plan is better.
Nope, that's wrong.
I'm saying government's a dumb idea. It's going to end horribly.
You got to
the
listen.
Anti-Federalist case. Government's a dumb idea. It's going to end horribly. And guess what? The Anti-Federalists were right, and they were the founding fathers too.
You got to
Let's not forget that they were the founding fathers too.
I didn't say your plan was inferior. I said if people were moral and honest and right and good and godly, your plan is the way to go. I never said it was inferior. That's where you play games with the arguments. That's where you dishonestly represent me.
That's not true.
That's an immoral act to do so.
No. That's not true because it doesn't matter if the people
are
immoral
you
or
said
not
I
immoral.
said your plan's inferior. I never said that.
No, in your government plan, everybody's got to have a role and do this and do that and everything.
Stick
in
with
my
the
plan,
point.
nobody has to do anything.
Don't change the game.
Freedom.
I never said your plan was inferior. In fact, I said that it was better if everyone would cooperate and do what they're supposed to. If everybody was moral, your plan's better. I've already told you that. Do you agree?
Yes.
So don't say I said it's inferior. That's a lie. And you shouldn't lie either. It's an immoral act.
Agree.
All right, so quit doing it. Now, we're back to the issue of morality.
Okay.
And I'm saying to you that life is the most important, precious gift we have from God Almighty.
Yeah.
And that life must be preserved. And I am saying to you that in a perfect world, we will all preserve it, and the world's good. We don't need to compel anybody to do anything. But when you have wicked, evil people who are trying to destroy life and who are trying to perpetuate communism on us by force, we have an obligation, in fact, a moral duty, to prevent that.
Sam, you're the one that's trying to perpetuate communism on people. You're the one that's making the collectivist argument.
False.
You are making the collectivist
my view
argument.
Is godly. Communists are
it's
godless.
Godly collectivism?
No.
I would start the collectivism.
Again, you're playing games with words.
No, I'm
the
not.
Right
you're
to life.
advocating collectivism.
The right to life is
Sam.
godly. Do you agree?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I'm talking about the right to life.
You have a right to life. Yes, you have a right to life.
And what ends can we go to preserve that highest of moral values?
You can't steal. It's a
so we
slippery
lose
slope.
life on the altar of not stealing, and it's
no,
moral.
No,
we lose life
God
on the altar
people,
of not stealing,
God
and it's
protects
moral.
people that don't steal and don't advocate.
Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah.
The bear might just kill you. It's the order of things on the earth. The guy that wants to steal your coconuts might kill you.
So Sam,
and I'm suggesting
that
if we don't have a pact to agree peacefully to preserve life, we have the right to force you to make sure that happens. That's right.
No, that's wrong. So you're...
All right, listen.
Yeah.
I can't help it. It's the end of the hour.
Okay.
But we are going to continue this next hour. I will let you come back and make your... In fact, I'll even let you start out the show. How's that?
Sounds good.
We'll do it in seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Look, here's the question. Do you believe in no government or the proper role of limited constitutional government is really the question. And what ends can we utilize?
Tell me more about this limited constitutional
Can we get there, right? What ends can we use to get there? What's moral?
Tell me more of this limited government
Is there
of which
a hierarchy
speak.
of morals that preserve liberty or not? He thinks that stealing coconuts is the same as murder. I suggest they're on a different moral level. Hour 1 in the can, 2 coming up. God save the Republic of the United States of America. Gentlemen, our guest with me is debating this issue with me. The debate starts now, or continues now, I should say. The gloves are off, and we will continue the debate in just a second. But for now, I want to give him a chance to promote his books and all that he does. He's a good guy. And look, here's the point. We can agree to disagree and do so agreeably. We can leave and shake hands and be friends. And I believe this is a model for the nation. We all want to be peaceful. We all want to be kind. We all want to be... And this is the way we can do it, by having true dialogue. You can decide for yourself at the end of the interview who you believe has the most salient points. Meanwhile, go ahead, sir.
So my book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, makes the case that you can't really have a legitimate moral government. If you're on the island with three people, there's no way for two people to get the moral, legitimate right to steal the wealth of others. And what it leads to, government leads to this slippery slope where now you've got lockdowns, now you've got 50% taxation, now you've got a crooked monetary system where they're stealing the value out of everybody's money through fractional reserve banking. And that there's another way to organize. There's another way to organize society that is more logical, it's more moral, and luckily it delivers the goods. The other point in the book is that government really can be best thought of as a technique to rob and control societies. I don't believe that it was ever intended to protect life, liberty, and property. Some people may believe that, but I don't necessarily believe that.
Yeah, you believe their naivete at the least.
At the very least, and
Sure.
And a lot of the founding fathers made the exact same case. They were called the Anti-Federalists,
Yes.
and they were saying, "Hey, these people are bad people. They're conspirators. This idea isn't going to work. It's not going to protect life, liberty, and property." And if you take a look at who was right, I would argue that the founding fathers on the Anti-Federalist side were the correct ones. They predicted what's going to happen in the world that we live in right now. And so it wasn't that all the founding fathers were uniformly aligned in supporting the new Constitution.
All right, promote your website because we're about to dig in.
Okay, so the book is Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed. It's been the best-selling book at almost 24 Liberty conferences and events. We're selling it in 22-plus countries. You can find that at government-scam.com. My organization is the Art of Liberty Foundation, and we are exposing the illegitimacy and the criminality of government. So whether or not you believe in either of Sam or I's case of that government is legitimate or illegitimate, I think that one of the things that almost everybody can agree on is that the government in Washington, D.C. today has been hijacked and is being run as organized crime, where they're stealing money from people and handing it to private companies, private individuals.
On that,
through
I agree 100%.
Through the TARP, the TOLF, the bailouts. They're buying weapon systems that we don't need for manufactured wars with enemies. And so we're exposing the illegitimacy and the criminality of government from a principled, voluntarist standpoint. Now, Sam keeps calling me an anarchist. I don't call myself an anarchist. I call myself a voluntarist. It's the same thing. You can't have a government if everything is voluntary. But in voluntarism, there's two tenets. One is that all relationships between human beings must be voluntary. Nobody has rights that other people don't. No one can acquire rights that other people don't. There is no ring of power. We throw the ring of power into the volcano, and everybody is self-organizes. The good news is the world is a self-organizing system. It produces spontaneous order. Everything you want the government to do to protect you from the bears and everything can be done through voluntary associations, voluntary compacts. You don't have to steal money from some people to put your idea into place. You can do it voluntarily. So I'm a voluntarist.
All right, so government.scam.
Government-scam.com and then theartofliberty.org, and you can find all of our writings at artofliberty.substack.com as well.
All right. I also want to point out you guys have a program where people can buy a pack and buy books and donate books to others as well, right?
So one of the interesting things about the book is selling about 15% of the copies that we sell are sold as what we call a Friends Bundle. And so the book has achieved that rare status of being one of the books that people are buying in bulk to give away to friends, family, relatives. People donate copies to libraries. They put them in little mini libraries in neighborhoods. They're making them
spreading
coffee
the word
table
by circumventing all the gatekeepers, if you will.
Circumventing the gatekeepers. They're making them coffee table books and Airbnbs, and finding innovative ways to expose the ideas of real liberty, real freedom, and the criminality and the illegitimacy of government to their friends, their family, and colleagues. And so one of the things that we've done is we've created what we call a pop-up guerrilla bookstore. And the pop-up guerrilla bookstore is you can buy 10 copies of the book, 10 of our Liberator flash drives that back up the book and has all the evidence supporting the claims, and everything you need to attractively merchandise the book in a small footprint, and you can share in the profits of the book. And so it's $275 to get a pop-up guerrilla bookstore, and you're going to make around $300 after the sale of all the books is done. And so we've got these things going in around the world, and so that's kind of exciting. We just sold one here at the conference a minute ago.
And
which
the best
is why
place for that is ArtOfLiberty.org.
No, that's at government-scam.com.
Government-scam.com/store.
Okay. You can get to it on the site, but it's government-scam.com/store is all, and it's not just my book, but we've got kind of the best books in explaining voluntarist thought and how you can have government, how you can have everything you want from government without the extortion, without the theft. And so we've got titles from Larkin Rose. Yes, we've got some of the best books.
Anyway, check it out online,
as well.
ladies and gentlemen. You can check it out. Now, the debate continues now. It's my assertion that there's a hierarchy of moral values. And that hierarchy of moral values means that all things are not the same. All truths are not equivalent. Okay? And there are things that are more important than other things in this moral hierarchy. Life is at the top of the list. Okay? The preservation of life is the highest of moral issues. Okay? You know what? You shouldn't punch somebody. I agree. It's bad. It's violent. It's wrong. It's not good. But you know what? Punching somebody doesn't compare to someone's life. So that's an example of the point that I'm making. And I'm saying to you that there are bad actors who will destroy life. There are bad actors who will violate all of God's 10 commandments if you let them. And as a result in society, if everybody cooperated, I believe our guest's ideas, ArtOfLiberty.org, is right. If everybody cooperated, everybody was moral, everybody voluntarily worked together to be incredible. I believe that's the way it'll be when we live with God again. However, in this society that we live in, there are bad actors. And those bad actors do kill, do steal, do violate God's commandments. And we have a moral obligation to make sure that we protect the innocent. Okay, it's not just a theory. It's not communism. It's godly. We should protect those who have life, which means all of us. And if people are not willing to do that at some point, we will lose our lives if we don't preserve life. And so I submit to you the preservation of life is the highest of moral values. Let's start there, sir.
So I agree with you, but I'm not. But that is just my opinion, and I'm not willing to use violence on you to put my opinion into practice. That's where we disagree. You're willing to use violence on people that disagree with you to put your
only
version.
If I'm forced.
No, you're willing. You're
only if I'm forced, because I agreed with you. Hold on.
Yeah,
I agreed with you when the three of us are on the island. If you voluntarily help us, we don't need to force you to do anything.
So you're saying that you have the right to steal money from others. Where did you acquire
this right? I'm saying I have the. Hold on, I wouldn't use those words. I'm saying I have the right to compel protection for all of us.
You have the right to. You have the right to steal.
Compel.
That. How do you? So how are you going to compel these coconuts away from this guy on the island, Sam?
Well, when you say compel the coconuts away,
yeah, you're going to steal the coconuts, Sam.
I'm not going to steal the coconuts.
Then okay, then we're cool. So you can't have a government if you're not willing to steal.
But I am going to
government steal.
I am going to have a way to force you to preserve life.
How are you going to do that, Sam?
Well, that's how we're going to work through it. I'm going to say to you that you have an obligation to not be a freeloader. It's immoral for you to have the protection we're providing without you participating in the funding of or the responsibility for that protection. Now, if you don't want that protection, you can go ahead and leave the island.
Sounds like the mafia to me.
You can go ahead and leave the island if you want to.
It sounds like the mafia to me.
But we're simply saying here that, you know what? We need protection or we're all going to be dead. And if you voluntarily help, great. If you won't, or at some point you become a predator, we, by God's law, have an obligation to preserve life.
Okay.
And you're saying that the loss of life is not as valuable as your coconuts. Coconuts are equal to human life. And I say that's false.
Okay. And what I'm, to go back to the core point. So there's 3 people on the island. You're saying that you have the right to, because I don't have the right to steal your money, but you're saying that you have the right to steal other people's money, coconuts, property, to put your ideas into effect. And I'm saying I disagree fundamentally, and that's where we're at. I mean, that's the
element you're leaving
You're
out.
willing to steal. You're saying that you can acquire the rights because you and the other person vote, or you write a constitution or some reason that you now have rights that I don't have, and that you get to decide for me how we're going to organize society. And I'm saying that's violence. I'm saying that that's immoral. I'm saying that is the appeal of the collectivists and the communists. And so we'll let the audience decide. And I hope the audience gives you some feedback on what they think of your moral position.
So let's
because
take it a
it's
step
immoral and it's the slippery slope that leads to communism and bloodshed and violence. And we don't want anything to do with that.
Let's take another question to kind of help the argument flesh out, shall we? Mm-hmm. Whose island is it?
We're just marooned on an island. It's no one's island.
Okay, it is somebody's island. That's the part you don't get. Whose island is it?
It's God's island.
Now you're talking.
All right.
Good. So God has an island. And he peoples the 3 of us to that island somehow. Mm-hmm. Whose property is the island? Or whose property is on the island?
It's God's property.
And he lends it to us. For what purpose?
To pursue happiness.
Yeah. That's kind of a sidestep, but yeah.
Yeah. Life, liberty, and happiness.
Okay, so what did you start with?
Life.
Life.
Yes.
So God has property, and he has this island, and he puts us on it, and the goal is to have life.
Maybe the goal is to teach you a lesson of morality and that you shouldn't be stealing.
The goal is to have life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is the goal not to have life? He peopled the planet.
The goal is to have life.
Okay, good. So now if the goal is to have life, is it appropriate for me to use God's property to ensure life is preserved for us all, maximizing liberty or not?
So you get to steal.
From who? God?
So you're saying that God told you to steal?
No.
Because God told you not to steal.
It's God's property, right?
Yeah, God has told you not to steal.
It's God's
He's
property,
got some
right?
commandments where he's told you not to steal.
And he's
you're
also
saying,
told me not to kill or to let life, he's told me to preserve life.
Sam, he told you not to steal, and you're saying that you have the ability to steal. And I'm trying to tell you that there's another way. You can have everything you want without stealing. And me and my buddy, we're trying to say, hey, we're willing to work with you cooperatively.
But here's
Sam.
the flaw. You keep saying you and your buddy are willing to work with me, but I've proven to you that in society, there are people who are not willing to do that. That is the problem. In a perfect world where everybody's willing to do what you say, you're right.
Sam, in this example, you're the one that's not willing to work with us. You're the one that says it has to be your way and that you get to use violence and you
I'm
get to
agreeing
steal.
that it's your way.
Well,
I've already
that's
agreed
cool.
to
Then
that.
we're all going to work together
No, because
voluntarily.
one guy decides he's not.
Then you and I are going to work together voluntarily, and that guy can go and steal other people's coconuts on the other side of the island or whatever. But let's you and I work together. I'm sorry that guy's insane.
No, let's say he's not stealing coconuts. Let's just say that he won't help preserve our lives. If a bear comes, he's going to let us die.
I'm sorry that he's that way, but that doesn't give me the ability to
That's an
steal
immoral act
from
on
him.
his part.
But it doesn't give me the ability to steal his coconuts, Sam.
So life is less important than coconuts in your mind. We're back to that. See, there's a hierarchy of morals that you're overlooking.
You're throwing out one of the commandments.
You're pretending that stealing is equivalent to life.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're putting them on the same moral plane. If the guy dies, I'm sorry, but nobody got their coconuts stolen. You're making them equivalent, and I'm submitting to you they are not equivalent in God's law. Life is more important than stealing.
But
let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
If you are starving and you steal, would it have been better if you didn't steal but you just died from hunger? Now, the best plan is to go get food somewhere else and not steal. We agree.
So I would negotiate with the owner of the food.
But I'm not
would
going to give you
offer
anything.
to do work.
You can die.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to cooperate with you. You can die, or, now the best way is for you to go find food somewhere else, and I believe if you pray hard, God will help you do that, right?
Yeah.
But
not if you're advocating stealing. He's not.
But so here's my question:
if you're on the air, if you're on the radio advocating that people steal and use violence on others, he's going to be mad at you.
If
Sam.
you're
I'm
on the
trying to
radio
help you
advocating
in this situation,
that if you don't take the food and you die, is dying better than stealing? Letting yourself die from starvation, is that better than stealing?
what if he welcomes you to heaven and say, "Congratulations for making the right decision"?
But you have no life. You have no liberty. You think that's
no,
better?
You're now in heaven because you
So
made
you
the
believe
moral.
that-
You made the
You
moral
believe that stealing,
choice.
hold on, you believe that stealing is the highest moral imperative. Nothing trumps it.
No, what I'm saying is,
No, is that right?
You can't have a government based on stealing.
Forget
you
that.
Can't
I'm asking you a
organize,
question.
I'm saying that you
Forget government. We're talking about morals here. What is the highest moral imperative for you? I say it's life.
I agree. So life is important. Yes.
Okay, but if you're about to die and you're starving to death, and there's a coconut here, but it happens to be mine, and I won't give it to you, it's better for you to die than eat my coconut. Is that right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to steal your coconut.
So you'd rather die?
No, I'd rather go do my work. These are situational ethics questions. I can come up with similar situation ethics questions, but what we need to go back to is the core of the thing, which I'm saying there's no legitimate way for people to acquire rights that other people don't, and you're saying that there is, and I'm saying to you, what is the mechanism by which you legitimately and morally acquire rights that other people don't, and get to steal from them to put your ideas into practice?
Yep.
And I'm saying, do you write it down on a piece of paper and call it a constitution? Do you vote on it? Do you have an election?
Those things are downstream from our discussion.
No,
right?
it's not.
Yes, because if we establish that, hold on, if we establish I don't have the right, then I just don't eat the coconut and I die.
All right, Sam.
Okay? So if I'm dead, I don't sign any papers. No.
I understand why the
if
other
I'm dead,
person,
I don't write up anything
Sam,
and put anything on a
I'm
piece of
starting
paper.
to understand why the other person walked away the last time that you said you got into this argument.
Yes.
Because you're going around in a circle and you're not answering the core question,
No,
which
I
is
am.
How does someone
So I'm gonna tell you.
acquire rights that other people don't and
I'm gonna
get
tell
to
you.
use violence on other people?
It's this moral imperative that I'm trying to teach you. All morals are not equal. So if I eat your coconut, it's a bad act. It's not good. But compared to losing my life, it is justified.
Okay, that's an opinion.
Right.
What I'm saying...
All of this is opinion. My views, your views, it's all opinion, right? And it is the opinion of most people in society that there are a priority of morals. And that priority of morals governs what we do. And most people believe that life is more important than stealing a coconut. So I don't have the right to steal your coconut for any reason on the planet. Okay, that's a moral violation. I have the right to steal your coconut or eat your coconut, might be a better way to say it, only under certain conditions.
Can we let Keith Knight jump in here?
There are greater moral values in play. If I want to steal your coconut or eat your coconut because I want to get fatter, or because I love coconuts, or because I can watch TV if I eat coconuts, that's not the same discussion as the preservation of life. That's why Bastiat taught that the defensive mode of government has a legitimate value and purpose. The offensive does not.
So I'm going to appoint a champion here. Keith Knight from the Libertarian Institute just walked up, and he's heard this entire argument, and I think he wants to weigh in on it.
Yeah, but hold on. You can't switch gears and create 2 against 1, but I'll let you do it anyway. But now you're
considering us anarchists are 7 billion against maybe 10,000, I think maybe you can be in the minority for the first time ever. Ask me as many questions as you'd like. I promise I can bring some clarity to this horror.
If you anarchists are 7 billion to my 10,000, then why don't you guys have a society where I'm dead by now?
What? We don't. I was saying that we're in the minority, not you.
No, I thought you were saying you guys were 7 billion.
No, I said status are 7 billion. You said you were terrified of a 2-on-1 discussion, But we've been having
I joked about it and put you on the radio. If I was really terrified, I wouldn't have done it. I would have said, no, stick with the argument one-on-one, but I willingly took it on, right? So, I just joked about that.
Well, with the discussion regarding the importance or legitimacy of theft, the way you would actually analyze the value of theft is to compare theft to theft, not theft to life. So the question is there any double standard when it comes to people regarding the state of theft? That's how you can value. That's how you can judge the value of theft.
Is there ever a justification for theft is the question.
Yes, certainly.
And the answer is yes.
Just to bring some clarity, sometimes it's okay to enslave someone for 5 seconds if you'll save the whole world. But that doesn't mean we should generally accept slavery as a rule.
That's right.
By raping one person you could cure all cancer and all misery forever, okay, yes, in that case, it doesn't mean you should extract that as a general
and that's
rule.
Why, hold on, and that's why Bastiat taught that it's you have to give up a little bit of liberty to maximize liberty, but there is an offensive versus defensive role and justification for doing so. When the moral, the hierarchy of morals is in play, there are exceptions to these points you're making. They are limited in scope, and the problem is when those exceptions are exploited and abused, you have a problem.
Yeah, and under any social system, there are exceptions and there are abuses. The question is, when would some people be justified in having a completely different standard for morality? You're saying that there's a shortcoming that exists, but it exists in all human societies. None of this justifies one group of people having a monopoly on violence. You're just saying people are fallible, therefore some people should have a monopoly on violence.
No, I'm not saying some people, because you're acting like we're splinter groups, like we're tribes, right? And that one tribe gains over the other. The Constitution was uniquely created by the Founding Fathers with unique principles. They didn't borrow from a single form of government. They looked at history and they looked at all the different forms of government, and they did their very best. They called it the Grand Old Experiment, by the way. And in the Grand Old Experiment, they put together different pieces of government. They took the best pieces of each kind of government they knew about. They did their very best to put together a system of checks and balances, a system where no faction could gain too much power and authority, and they did their very best at it, and they called it a Grand Old Experiment. When they were asked what kind of government they gave, they said a republic if you can keep it, highlighting the people's responsibility in that. So compare the government now, or the Constitution, to a diet. If the diet says don't eat sugar, but the second you commit to the diet, you eat sugar, then you get sugar diabetes and you blame it on the diet. That's what's happening in America today.
Nobody committed to the diet. It got forced on everybody.
Go ahead, sir.
So the issue with the Constitution is that it grants people a monopoly on violence and then implements checks and balances once that monopoly's already been granted. The ultimate check and balance in society is the freedom to disassociate with bad actors. Because the Constitution does not allow that, it's a major shortcoming. And that's why I can agree with you the Constitution was a huge improvement, but no longer having a double standard for government officials is the next step in progress. Just as the British Empire was still pretty damn good.
So as you wisely point out that societies and all governments go downhill fast. You're right about all that. I agree 100%. And the reason they go down fast is because people don't take their liberties seriously enough, don't jealously guard their liberties. The reason that the few, the ruling class, the statists, the elitists, the shadow government, the deep state, whatever words you want to use for them, have so much power is because we the people have not stood up to preserve our rights. We have not used the checks and balances effectively. It's like that diet I said. We're eating sugar, even though we committed that we wouldn't eat sugar. And so sugar is the problem, not the diet. The violation of the Constitution, the lack of upholding the Constitution is the problem, not the guidelines themselves.
Sam, this is Zach. I've also been listening into this.
Hold on, we got a
debate.
break. I'll let you comment when we get back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Bushman, your ultimate think tank, taking on the third person. Zach, you're on the radio, sir.
Hey.
It's 3 against 1 now, but I can handle it.
Yeah, so I have definitely been listening into this entire conversation.
Yes, sir.
There's one thing that I truly believe. So it all started with God. This is God's land.
Yes, sir.
This whole conversation started with that.
Yes, sir.
And we've all agreed on that.
Kind of.
That
I'm
God,
not sure they agree.
I'm talking about that one part, that the land is God's.
Yes,
Okay?
I agree, and 3 of us have agreed,
So-
but there's one guy that I don't know if he agreed to that.
Well, that's okay.
He left now.
Now, here's
All right.
what I was going to say. There's another thing that God gave us that's a law, okay?
Yes.
And it's called agency.
The ability to choose.
The ability to choose
Yes.
good and evil.
Good or evil.
Good or evil.
Yeah.
So every single person, every human being that has ever lived has that one fundamental thing, the ability to choose good and evil.
Yes.
Because God gave it to them.
Yes.
That is a God-given, unalienable right.
Yeah, the right of conscience.
The right of conscience. Because of that, Sam is saying they have the right to steal because they can choose it, right?
Yes.
As wrong as that is, they still have that right, unfortunately. And people will choose wrongly to do so.
Necessarily, unfortunately, by the way.
And so, in that reality, that is a problem that needs to be solved. So I want you guys to continue the discussion on how in the world is that going to be solved. Now, I want to also mention the Constitution, yeah, as imperfect as some of the things are in there. For instance, the slavery aspect, right? As bad as that is, it's not the Constitution that's the problem. It's the people that chose not to follow what the Constitution was designed to do, which
there's
was
a violation of the moral code is the point.
Which, yeah, exactly. There's checks and balances, and people are not following that, and I think that's the problem with it.
Well, and that's the problem is when government goes awry, which it always does because it's the natural man, the more they go away from God's law, the more government runs off the rails. The more communistic it becomes because it's godless. Godly would be to obey the commandments and be peaceful, as our guest is advocating for. He's right on the point that if we were all peaceful and we were all self-governing, we wouldn't need government, and it would be great. The problem is that isn't the way society works. There will be a vacuum, and if it's not filled by something, it'll be filled by something else. And that's why he can't give me an example of no government for a long time on the earth. Always a bad actor will by force create government. The only question left is what government has the least abuse that we can have. I'm not advocating for government as much as I'm advocating to say government is a reality and there's no way to avoid it.
No, wait. You are advocating for government. You're saying
No, I'm saying it's a necessary
society
evil.
has to be organized in this way.
I am saying it's a necessary evil because
I'm
evil
saying that
will
we shouldn't
force
do evil.
that to be the case.
No. I'm saying we shouldn't do evil and that we have evil because
But to
people
not
are
do
willing
anything
to discard their
allows
morality.
evil to prosper in the worst form.
Which is why I'm trying to throw my shoulder against the door, and I'm sitting here trying to explain to you that the slippery slope begins when you think that it's okay for you to steal from others and force a political system on other people against their
The
will.
slippery slope begins when we all think that we can have a peaceful society. We can sing Kumbaya, and a bad actor then becomes the force that we don't want.
No. So I'm willing to voluntarily organize against that bad actor. I'm willing to do my part.
Yes. So why hasn't your plan? Why don't we have an example in history that has any long-term reality that we can point to? Tell me why.
Because all of these different countries are running the same technique on their populations.
I know, but how did that start, though?
Because it works. Because they've been able to control the information that society believes, to trick the population, to scam them, to chump them, to sucker them into thinking that government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary by controlling the information that they receive.
And so you can't get enough people to think right to make your plan work. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, so there's people that are organizing all over the world, and they're voting with their feet. They're going to New Hampshire, where they're rolling back government. The Free State Project is an effort to roll back government.
But they still have plenty of government
They're going to Prospera off the island of
I know, but listen, if your ideas hold water, then there's enough people somewhere to make your ideas happen, right?
So we're beginning to concentrate in that happening. So Sharon is the town that kicked out government and they kicked out the cartels, and they're doing just fine. So there are examples of places that are thriving without government.
So you can move to Sharon right now and have no government?
There's no government in Sharon.
So if you move to Sharon, can you get property?
I'm assuming you can get property. I haven't been to Sharon. I've talked to people that have been there, so I know what's going on.
What I'd like to have you do is go there and try it out and come back and report on the radio.
Well, I can put you in contact with people that have been to Sharon.
But there is no place in history where people have been able to maintain a completely 100% voluntary society by peaceful means. There is no such society that you can point to that has any longevity.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't aspire to it.
Well, I think we should aspire to it. I agree 100%.
All right, then let's aspire to it.
That's why we're all trying to live to follow Jesus Christ and follow the Prince of Peace and be peaceful. But I'm pointing out...
You're advocating stealing,
No, I'm
Sam.
not.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
Because you're saying it's okay to steal, and it's okay because I think that this is the way society needs to be organized, that it's so important that we have to be able to steal from others to put this idea into...
I never said it was okay to steal.
You did.
Said, no.
You did.
Look, I said government is a necessary evil, and there's a hierarchy of values, and there are values that are more important. And to preserve those values...
You said it was okay to take the coconuts...
No, I said it was necessary.
It was necessary, right. That's
not okay. That's necessary. Let me give you an example. If I have to kill a evil person to save an innocent person's life, I'm told thou shalt not kill by God. But I'm justified in preserving that innocence even if I have to take a life to preserve innocence.
Correct, but
there's moral values there.
That's the difference between the defensive use of force and the offensive use of force.
And I'm saying to you, the defensive use of force is justified by government, and the offensive force is not. I've been saying that the whole time.
No, I'm asking you.
No,
I've
been saying that the whole time.
All right, so let's go back.
Let me say it again.
I want to go.
The defensive force to preserve life, thus creating government, is a necessary evil and must happen. And if it doesn't have to happen, you show me an example where they've lived without that occurring. What happens is a greater force of evil fills the vacuum. So I'm not saying I love government or that government's great, but I am saying that God instituted governments among men to preserve life. And yes, governments, when they ignore God, run off the rails, no question. The more godly a society is, the more defensive that government will be as opposed to offensive. The more the people obey God's laws, the less government we need. The reason government grows and goes off the rails is because people turn away from God and become godless. Moral people are godly people. Godly people are moral people. It's the same. Okay, so I'm not saying that I love government or that I'm advocating for it. I'm telling you it's a necessary evil. And if you have a voluntarism society, 100% voluntarism, there will be evil people that will absolutely co-opt that, take it over,
and run government on you.
And run government on people.
Run government on you, you're right.
And when that happens,
they're gonna tax farm you using
right.
government. Government
Agreed.
is the technique used to
Agreed.
rob and control societies.
In many cases, there are evil people that do that. So if you're pure and honest with yourself, you will say that if we could put together a system that could prevent a more evil force from filling the vacuum, and we could create a balance between liberty and tyranny, and create a balance that would be as moral as we can get it, giving up a little bit of liberty. This is where I started the whole conversation almost 2 hours ago. A little bit of liberty, we give it up on the altar of maximizing liberty. That is the only way to preserve. And the American people, through the supreme law of our land, the Constitution, it's far from perfect. People have violated it, no question. But it has provided more liberty to more people in the history of the world than any other example of any kind of government anywhere you can show me, bar none. It is not debatable.
Let's get back to how do you get it.
It's not debatable. Do you agree, or can you show me a better example?
I'd say that other places have just as much liberty. I'd say the Irish.
Can you show me a 250-plus year history since the United States experiment by the Founding Fathers has been started,
first of all,
where there's been more liberty to more people?
First of all, we may be the prettiest horse in the glue factory. We may be the leper with the most fingers, but that does not mean that we should go along this path, because we could have had more liberty.
I don't
if
agree.
We hadn't gone, well,
you show me the example that highlights it.
You're still dodging the question.
Give me the example that highlights it.
I don't have to give you an example.
Because you don't have one. Admit it. You don't have one.
I'm saying there's been civilizations.
There's been fleeting examples, but you don't have a historical longevity providing more liberty to more people than the American people have provided.
I would
to
argue
the
that we don't have that much liberty just because we have a little bit more.
I know, but you don't have an example where there's more liberty.
No, we're the slave plantation with the best working conditions.
But you don't have an example
that doesn't
where there's
mean
more.
that we should be a slave plantation.
You're
arguing
your
that we have to
theory-
have a slave plantation, and I'm saying even if it's you're like, look what a great slave plantation this is.
Your
you only
theory
have to work.
has
you only
no
have to
evidence
work.
of working.
No, it does. It's working right now in Sharon. It's worked in Ireland. It's worked among the American Indians.
But you can't compare that to the history of the United States and the liberty provided. You've got a little snapshot that doesn't work.
Wait, I want to back this up to the core issue. Okay, I want to get back to the core issue. How do you get the ability? So
I've already explained.
There are 3 million people living on this continent when they instituted the Constitution, and so you've got a group of people that literally went into a room. 4 or 5 dozen people go into a room and they write down on a piece of paper that they alone get to make up rules and steal the wealth of others.
Yep.
How many people have to be in the room for that to be legitimate, or is that illegitimate? If there was 3 million people,
you're going to say it's illegitimate, and here's what I would say.
So
they had no choice. Listen,
they had no choice.
They had no choice but to put together the best plan they could
and force it on 3 million people.
Let me finish.
And force it on 3 million people.
Let me finish. To prevent a greater force, a greater evil, from creating tyranny.
We have tyranny now.
Well, we have less.
We're living in tyranny.
No, we're not.
The fuck, we're not.
Well, hold on. You can't swear on the radio, though.
Sorry about that.
And you don't have enough moral code to understand that. I get it, and we'll forgive you for it. I'll have to have my board op now go bleep it out, though, or the FCC will come after me, and I'll get sued. Because they're looking for every opportunity they can. Nevertheless, despite your moral indiscretion, which I'll ignore, it's not as important as life, or whether I steal your coconuts. But it's still, unacceptable to most societal, inhabitants. Nevertheless, I digress, except to say this: the Constitution is far from perfect. The founding fathers, no doubt, had a license by those who sent them. In other words, they were delegates, and they chose to amend the Articles of Confederation out of existence.
So a couple thousand people out of 3 million participated in this.
That's right.
So you got to have how many? What's the magic number?
There's not a magic number.
We
just went to an island where 2 out of the 3 did it, right?
So you're saying
there's not a magic number.
Then why can't my girlfriend and myself vote that you give us all your money?
Why don't you try it?
But no.
Why don't you try it? See, that's what I'm trying to get across to you, is that by force, there will be tyranny, and all we're talking about is how to prevent that tyranny. And you believe that a free society of voluntarists can get it done.
Yes.
I believe that a group of people putting together the best plan with checks and balances they could possibly put together is the best plan.
Okay, the plan didn't work.
My plan has 250 years. Hold on. My plan has 250 years of somewhat success.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It does not.
And the only time it doesn't have success is when people violate the plan. You don't have any snapshot in history but a teeny blip that you can even point to of success. But I maintain, under the Constitution, the United States has provided more liberty to more people in the history of the world than any other societal cooperative document or behavior in history. And you can't find anything that even comes close to compare. Nothing.
All right. First of all,
and so yours is a theory.
Me more about
mine
this
has
liberty of which you speak.
Yours is a theory. Mine has historical relevance of fact behind it.
No. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Did it work?
Yes.
So was the Constitution able to protect life, liberty, and property?
Not perfectly, but yes.
No, it has
absolutely.
not. No,
yes.
it has.
The fact that you and I can debate this on the radio proves it. In most other countries, would be dead right now for doing so.
So we're the prettiest horse in the glue factory.
You can say that all day long if you choose.
We're the best slave plantation.
And I've already agreed with you.
We're the best slave plantation that there is.
You're right.
Yeah, it's a great.
And we're preparing for the Savior to come.
We're
preparing for the Savior to come meanwhile. And you want to be a voluntarist, but
so we have a slave
plantation. Here's my next
question
for
you. The Constitution. So you admit that we're in tax slavery. That every day you work in January, every day you work in February, every day you work in March, April, May, and June.
You're acting like I'm all pro-government, and I'm not.
Right. So how do you call something that has put all of these millions of people onto a tax plantation?
A greater force will make it worse. We've got the best we can get.
Maybe the Russians
with
would cut our
imperfect
taxes.
humans. We've got the best we can get with
Maybe,
imperfect
maybe
humans.
the Chinese would cut our taxes.
No, they wouldn't. That's a lie. They're communist, godless. The more communist, the more godless a people are, the less liberties they have. We've already established that. And we've established that the United States, far from perfect, has done more for liberty than any other example you can point to. And you dodge the question and refuse to answer. There is no comparable example in history that's provided more liberty to more people in the history of the world than the United States of America. You've already by default agreed to that by your silence.
Wait a minute. But also you've got more people that are in prison for victimless crimes than any other
true.
place
It doesn't
in
change
history
my
as
point.
well. It does change your
No,
point.
it doesn't.
It's produced
You can
misery.
even say people came here in slavery. That doesn't change my point.
For many,
There's
many,
far
many
more
people.
good the United States has produced, even if you can point to its flaws. Do we have flaws? Absolutely. But it doesn't change the point that I'm making. More people have had more liberty under the U.S. Constitution than any group in history. It is a proven experiment that the Founding Fathers embarked on. Fact. And it's not debatable. And the proof is, if you have a better plan, why don't you move to it? Why don't you go to it? Why don't you highlight it for me? Because you can't and you won't. You'll stay in the United States. You will go ahead and pay your taxes and use your government-issued driver's license and complain about it. But you cannot find, you cannot create, you cannot move to, and you cannot even highlight a better plan. Right?
So I'm working on exposing the illegitimacy and the criminality of the existing
But you
system.
can't point a better plan.
And I am explaining a better plan, that you don't need government, that you can have everything
And you have
that you
no
want government to
historical
do
evidence of that fact. Right?
Yes, you have civilizations, and you've admitted you can say brief as you want, but it is
Yes.
possible to.
And why are they
have-
brief?
Because criminals
Because
using
my point
government
is, well, taking a
using
greater
government,
force.
yes, criminals using government. So yes, criminals
greater
that
force.
use government.
Hold on. A greater force will
Other
fill that
criminals
vacuum.
using government
Then
will
you're
come
volunteer.
in and steal the tax slaves of others.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
And they'll swap from you.
You've made
paying-
my argument for me. A
No, I
greater
haven't.
force will fill that vacuum.
I'm not. No.
You just told me that a greater force will force it upon you.
What if instead of advocating for government, Sam, you advocated for real freedom and real liberty, and you
No, it's not possible.
explained that you can
No,
have
it's a
everything
fantasy
you want,
land.
and
It's
we
not
grew,
reality. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Why don't we grow a truly moral people?
'Cause it's not
that
possible.
aren't willing to use violence on others and self-organize ourselves
because
to the
we'll be-
point
we'll-
of where
we will
we
be
throw
so-
out the people that are using government to tax farm
We will
us.
be so Pollyanna that we'll get taken over by a greater force with that mentality.
So what
That's
if
the
we're
problem.
what if we're the greater force in some jurisdiction? Let's say New Hampshire. Let's say what if
Not
we
possible.
can get
The United States
we
will
can-
crush you like they crushed the South.
So you're admitting that the government of the United
Yes.
States is going to use violence
Yes.
against us. Okay,
Absolutely.
So I think we should push. And
Do
try
I
it
like
anyway.
that? No. Do I think that's good and moral? Absolutely not. That's
So
not my
you're
point.
You're advocating
Nope.
for having the system that
Nope.
this exists under. You
I'm-
are,
I'm-
Sam.
I'm-
you
I'm-
are.
I'm-
You
I'm making the
are.
reality
You
that
are.
a
You're
greater
making
force-
my point.
a
You're
greater
making
force-
my point of evil people from the government
Yes.
of the United States, the evil
Yes.
people in the government of the United States, the people
but here's
that,
the part
that
that you're not-
populate the
you're
government,
not
that
listening
live
to.
on money stolen from others at the point of a gun, would come and steal and force everybody into slavery again if we were to win our freedom in a single state.
I'm saying
You're
to
s-
you,
so you're
yes,
saying,
I am saying that.
All right. So
Right.
you're supporting the system of thieves and liars and people that are living on money stolen from others at the point of a gun in Washington D.C.
That's the way you would phrase it, which I would
that's
disagree
what they are.
with.
No, that's what they
That's
are.
your
They're
opinion of
immoral
how it
people.
is.
They're
Let me
immoral
say it
people.
differently.
If you're in government, you're immoral.
Let me say it differently.
You're living off money stolen from
Let me
others
say
at the
it
point of a
differently.
gun.
I would say to you that a force of evil will fill the vacuum and create a tyranny. I'm saying your way does not at
You're
all
saying that-
repel. Let me finish. Your way does not repel tyranny. It's a fantasy, and it's never worked with any longevity. And the reason it hasn't is because evil will force their will.
They
So
force
I
their
will
will.
use
They're
my
tax
agency.
farming you.
I will use my agency to work with others to put together a system that uses force to compel a greater force with an effort to maximize liberty, and it's a moral, godly, just stance.
Not if you're stealing from people. It's not moral. It's not godly.
And
that's why it fails.
Because
and that's
I am
why
preventing
it failed.
greater stealing from taking place by my action.
That's why it failed.
Well,
that's why
when you say it failed,
that's why it failed. It was.
I have a 250-year history to point to of success that you can't point to in your plan.
I disagree with your characterization.
You tell me your plan, then.
No. You're saying it's a success, and I'm saying that all the people that
the fact that we're on the radio to have this discussion proves it's a success.
The people that are listening to you are being tax farmed for half of their income
in
overt taxes, covert taxes, and inflation.
Yes, they are.
They had 200,000 businesses that were just bankrupted under a fake pandemic.
And it's evil and it's wrong. You're right.
They were forced to take experimental injection that has left over a million
they
people
had more
in
liberty.
the United States.
Let me finish.
And 20 million people
They had
globally
more liberty
dead.
than they would have under your plan, and the proof is your plan doesn't exist anywhere with any longevity.
So I've got history to point to.
You do not.
You're saying that a society that can force all of these things is a success, and I'm saying, Sam, that's delusional.
Yep.
It may be the prettiest horse in the glue factory, but that's not what we want to aspire to.
And I'm saying to you,
it's not what God wants.
And I'm saying to you that I have raised my family, and I'm 56 years old, I've raised my family in relative peace and prosperity, regardless of the flaws you can point to, more so than in any other country that exists today over my 56 years. And in any example in history you can point to, even though it's got flaws and problems that I agree with you about, it's given me more liberty, more freedom, more prosperity, more stability, more safety than any other example that we can point to in history.
Tell me more about this freedom of which you speak. We're
on the radio. I've already told you about it.
You have some freedoms, but that's not free. The difference between a free man and a slave is that the slave can't say no. Are you a free man, Sam?
Yes, to some degree I am.
Can you say no to the government?
Yes, I do all the time. The government doesn't want, Joe Biden does not want me to stay on the radio, and I do anyway. He even launched the FCC against me, and I beat them with an attorney, and I'm still on the radio, even though Bill Clinton and Joe Biden tried to take me off the radio. So I can and do say no.
Can you say no to the taxes?
And so do you.
Can you? No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Okay, so you're telling me that you're participating. If you're not saying no, you're participating.
So I'm being
Wait a minute.
forced
Are you
to pay
saying no,
some.
or are you participating?
I'm saying no to many. I'm forced to pay some.
Okay, so now you're like me then. You have a lot of freedoms, but not enough.
But I don't have freedom. I don't have freedom.
I don't have real freedom.
No, I don't
have real freedom. The only way you'll have freedom and totality is when you live with God.
I do not have real freedom, and neither do you. And so when you talk about this freedom, I'm pointing out to you that you're being delusional. It's like a prisoner with Stockholm syndrome, and you're pretending that you have freedom. And I'm saying, hey, take a look at the real situation that you live under.
The liberties that I have are not pretend; they're real. Now, do I have as many liberties as I would like? No. And the more we turn away from God, the more we will lose them. But I have more liberties than almost anybody else in the world, and I've had them for a longer time, and my ancestors have had them for a longer time, and they are real liberties.
Slaves on plantations had real liberties, Sam.
We are not
slaves on plantation. They had real liberties.
That's
they could walk when they want.
They had Sundays off. And they were better off as slaves than being dead.
But that doesn't mean we aspire to slavery, Sam.
No, of course not. And that's why we don't aspire to government. We realize it's a necessary evil. We realize that it's a necessity. Because, hey, I'd rather have a kind slave owner than an evil slave owner. And that's really what we're talking about. I've told you that from the start.
Yeah,
because your plan does not exist.
You know, there's two kinds of slaves, Sam. There's those people that are slaves and those people that are enslaved. And during chattel slavery, the people that were slaves, they were like, oh, this is the way it is. This is the way it always is. And then there were the people that were enslaved, and they were like, okay, I'm going to get out of this situation.
And I've already told you, as soon as you create your society, I'm ready to come.
Hey, it's my turn. So there are people that were trying to get out of that situation. They were saying, hey, I'm going to find the Underground Railroad. I'm going to network with people to find the Underground Railroad. I'm going to begin saving my food.
I'm going to come on the radio and teach
food.
people about liberty. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to start saving my food.
And I'm going to even have on guys that are
eat.
anti-government to try to promote liberty as my guests. Yes.
So no. You keep interrupting me. So what I'm saying is that I am enslaved and you are a slave. You're willing to accept slavery, and I'm saying, hey, there's a better way. I'm going to get out of it. We're going to figure this out. It may be the Free State Project in New Hampshire. It may be Prospera off the coast of Honduras. It may be the Free Providence Project in New Brunswick, Canada, but we're going to find liberty, and we're going to get rid of the slavery of government. We're going to get rid of the criminality of government. We're going to get rid of the illegitimacy of government, and we're going to have real freedom, not fake freedom. We're going to have real freedom.
Right. I have
and
real
just
freedom.
Because it hasn't been done someplace else lately doesn't mean that it can't be done in the modern age. And that's the difference between you and I, is that I am enslaved and you are a slave.